Aku mau hanya dia saja. Mimpi-mimpi menjelma kenyataan. Aku mau terima segala.
The revolution will be televised, and I have come prepared with my popcorn and QT slushie. This section of Iron Flame brought itself back to life like a rising effing phoenix, shooting me in the arm with an adrenaline kick, and I am so glad that it did. My biggest qualms with the last section of Iron Flame was its pacing, and boy did that change in the last few chapters before the end of part 1. Finally, we can move on from the Violet keeping secrets subplot that was beginning to wear out its welcome. As much as I will give praise to the section I just finished, I have to point out some aspects that did not work for me in the beginning of this section with chapter 27. Manny Reads here, aka the book husband, and this is part 3 of my review series for Iron Flame. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to follow my journey into this world and other reviews of books that catch my interest. Without further ado, let's continue. I am going to preface what I have to say about this chapter with this. I knew what I was signing up for when picking up this series, spiciness and everything. However, the spiciness in this chapter has to be the most gratuitous and pointless sex scene I have ever read. Chapter 27 is basically a brief intermission from the slogging pace to a sex scene that I honestly skimmed over. I only stopped to really read if Violet and Xaden talked to see if they said something that we the audience didn't already know, but alas, nothing of substance. I thought they agreed on not using sex as a weapon. With the use of semantics and mental gymnastics, they say F it and go all out on each other. This gives credence to my earlier statement in my first review of Iron Flame that Xaden's words no longer hold weight for me. Not gonna lie, there was a big piece of me that wanted Violet's uncontrolled thunder to shock and kill Xaden while they were having sex. That Game of Thrones level of subversion would have recaptured my attention, but alas, I can't have everything in life, right? To drive the point home, the spice that was provided in Fourth Wing always added into the narrative, never taking away from the pace. With all of that being said, if I were to remove the entirety of chapter 27, would anything have changed within the story? Maybe this has implications on future events I am not privy to, but I highly doubt it. I'm never trying to yuck someone's yum, but I can confidently say this chapter objectively added nothing to the plot, aka filler and fan service. If I missed anything of importance in this scene, please feel free to let me know in the comments. As stated earlier, Violet finally, and I mean finally, revealed the truth to Rhiannon and the rest of her friends. In a previous review of the early parts of Iron Flame, I stated that if Violet does not realize her hypocrisy, then I would consider her tension with Xaden as manufactured. I was so glad that that subplot was finally realized, however it turned into something that blew my expectations out of the water. Harkening back to my previous review once more, I wanted the secret she was holding to blow up in her face, so when she finally told Rhiannon it would mirror Violet's reaction to Xaden. What we were given instead was a simple understanding and acceptance by Rhiannon and crew. When I say that I absolutely love this subversion of my expectations, it would be the understatement of the century. Violet so desperately wanted her friends to be angry with her because it would validate her tension with Xaden, but they did not acquiesce. Their understanding and acceptance showed that Violet overreacted to Xaden and that she should have trusted them from the beginning. So far, I believe the theme of Iron Flame is trust, and it is also the fatal flaw of our main character. For the majority of the early chapters of this book, Violet struggled to carry the burden of her secret and also worked to solve the Wardstone predicament with basically one hand behind her back. If she would have trusted her friends much earlier, they would have provided her with the helpful hints to move the story along. For example, Rydok pointing out what he found during their scavenge through the General's room in Fourth Wing. Details like this almost, keyword, almost, absolves Iron Flame's excruciatingly slow start because it built up to rich character moments. The pacing makes a complete 180-degree pivot after Violet's confession as things move at a breakneck speed towards the end of the part 1. I now understand Eric's contribution to the plot when he helped Violet and company during the book heist, which led to the most harrowing scene in the series so far. I can now understand everyone's universal hate of Varys. Until this scene I'm about to discuss, Varys antagonized Violet in both trivial and almost deadly ways by expending her energy while lightning wielding. His smarmy, power-drunk persona was annoying, yes, but I never hated him for it. But that all changed when he tortured Violet. I honestly didn't think the narrative would take such a macabre route. When he dislocates Violet's finger and she shrieks in agony, I immediately felt sympathy for a character I was honestly leaning towards dislike as the story was progressing. In his need to regain control, Varys resorted to torture while Violet gritted her teeth and thugged it out like the boss bitch I knew she could be. Varys' eventual demise was so worth it when Violet, maybe more Xaden, gave him his just desserts. But I'm getting ahead of myself because we need to talk about the real MVP, Dayne. Dayne, to me, is a character who constantly attempted to halt Violet's growth as a warrior and overall character. When it was found out that he had been stealing her memories, Violet's lack of trust in him was well warranted. Hell, even I didn't trust him, but it goes to show that trust is a two-way street that Dayne effortlessly crossed. He trusts Violet. He probably has always trusted Violet, however showed it in a very overprotective way. So when he stabs Varys upon learning the truth from Violet, that unwavering trust was finally there in full display. It is yet another example of Iron Flame's major theme rearing its head again. It goes to show that people can surprise you when they are trusted with the full picture. After breaking out with the beaten Violet, Dayne, Violet, and Xaden begin their revolution. And that is the end of part 1. To meet my fulfilled chapters, I read more into part 2 up to chapter 39. The way the status quo completely changes, part 1 could have been its own book, however extremely flawed in terms of pacing. Remember how I stated in my first review of Fourth Wing how I love political drama with unlikely alliances? I think, or at least hope, that we get more of that in droves as I continue into part 2 of Iron Flame. Side notes, Jack saving Violet was a subversion of expectations. We'll see if it was good or bad. When Violet reminds me that he has blonde hair and blue eyes, I couldn't help but think of a certain someone in history who valued those traits. Even calling them superior, Mira pulled the ultimate anime trope, woman punching guys she hasn't seen in a while. Granted, she thought he was dead, but still, haha. Is it me, or are there some fishy undertones when Xaden is being mentioned in the last few chapters of this section? I think Mira and company were sent to Aricha as a lure, with Mira being unaware. Redoc's extraordinary power being relegated as an ice pack. Am I asking for too much to see not just the side characters, but any of the characters use their powers to do interesting things? The Vaenen have been portrayed as evil, venomous, and everything, but there is a part of me that hopes that they are more than meets the eye, like everything else in this series so far. Maybe there is something they want from the humans that would make them more nuanced than evil for the sake of being evil. If not nuanced, then I hope that they'll at least be an adversary that I love to hate. Wild theory, I feel it in my bones that Taryn is going to be killed and Andarna is going to have to step up big. Those were my half-baked thoughts on this section of this epic fantasy. Remember to like and subscribe and tell me what I got wrong or right in the comments. Once again, this is Manny Reads here, aka The Book Husband, and I got more chapters to read. Peace out.